I worked the graveyard shift at a 24-hour diner on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. It's the kind of place that caters to truckers, night owls, and the occasional drifter. We serve standard diner fare: burgers, fries, coffee that can keep you awake for days, and a few other staples. The hours can get pretty monotonous, especially on weeknights when the road is empty, and the only sound is the hum of the neon sign outside. I usually bring a book to read, or a podcast to listen to when it's slow. The nights blend, but one stands out vividly in my memory. That night began like any other. The diner was empty, and I was lost in a thriller paperback when a strange noise echoed from the storage room at 2:25 a.m. My heart raced as I froze, sensing an eerie presence. Rationalizing it, I blamed it on possible fallen goods or a raccoon, but the thick fog outside unnerved me, obscuring visibility completely. Despite my fear, I grabbed a flashlight and cautiously investigated the messy storage room. Just as I was about to leave, the diner door chimed, announcing the arrival of a mysterious man whose piercing eyes sent shivers down my spine. "Evening," he said, his voice deep and gravelly. "You open?" "Yeah," I replied, trying to steady my voice. "What can I get you?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Just a coffee, black." I nodded and turned to make the coffee, my mind racing. There was something off about this guy, but I couldn't put my finger on it. When I handed him the cup, his hand brushed mine, and it felt like ice. "Cold night," I remarked, trying to make small talk. "Indeed," he said, taking a sip. He stared at me, his eyes never blinking. "Strange things happen on nights like this." I forced a laugh. "Yeah, like what?" He leaned in, his voice barely above a whisper. "Things that shouldn't exist in this world. Things that come out in the fog." I swallowed hard, my mouth dry. "You're messing with me, right?" He shook his head slowly. "No, there are truths in this world that most people are better off not knowing." I was about to respond when the noise from the storage room echoed again, louder this time. The man's expression didn't change, but his eyes seemed to darken. "Sounds like you've got company," he said. I glanced towards the storage room, then back at him. "Probably just a raccoon," I said, though I didn't believe it myself. "Or something else," he replied, setting his cup down. "You should be careful." Without another word, he stood up and walked out into the fog. I watched him go until he vanished completely, the fog swallowing him whole. The diner felt colder and emptier without him, and the fear that had subsided a bit with his presence now surged back in full force. I locked the door and turned off the lights, deciding to leave the storage room for the morning. Whatever was back there could wait. I spent the rest of my shift behind the counter, a knife within arm's reach, and every light in the place turned on. The fog lifted with dawn, and regulars trickled in. When my relief arrived, I tried to explain, but it sounded crazy. Still, I felt something lurking just beyond the light, waiting for the fog to return. I now avoid night shifts and have moved to a busier job. Yet on foggy nights, I think about that man and his eerie warning, wondering what I narrowly avoided. Months later, while working at a busy cafe, I thought I had moved past that night, until a familiar figure walked in just before closing. It was him, the man from the diner. He looked the same raincoat and hat, the same piercing eyes. My heart skipped a beat, and I felt the same unease wash over me. "Evening," he said, his voice sending chills down my spine. "Nice place you've got here." I forced a smile. "Thanks. Can I get you something?" "Just a coffee, black," he said, just like before. As I prepared his coffee, I couldn't help but feel like I was being watched, not just by him, but by something else. The cafe was empty, the usual evening rush having just left. The silence was deafening. He took a seat by the window, watching the street. I tried to focus on closing tasks, but his presence brought back all the fear and uncertainty I had tried to forget. "Strange things happen in the city too," he said suddenly. I looked up, startled. "Excuse me?" "The fog doesn't just bring things to the countryside. It can come here too, in the city. You can't escape it." "What do you mean?" I asked. "You'll see. Just remember, some doors are better left unopened," he said, leaving his coffee untouched before disappearing into the night. Unease lingered long after he was gone. I closed up quickly and went home, unable to sleep. His words replayed in my mind as a light fog began to roll in, stirring memories of that night at the diner. The next morning, I decided to investigate. At the library, I found disturbing accounts of unexplained disappearances and strange occurrences in Charleston, often coinciding with heavy fog. One story was about a man who vanished from a diner under circumstances eerily similar to my own experience: thick fog, strange noises, and an unsettling visitor. The man was never found, and the diner shut down shortly after. Feeling drawn to uncover the truth, I drove out to the abandoned diner. As I approached, the fog thickened. The diner looked exactly as I remembered, though more dilapidated. I parked and stepped out, the air cold and damp. I walked around the building, peering through dirty windows. Inside, everything was covered in dust, as if time had stood still. I felt a strange pull toward the storage room, the source of the noises that night. With some effort, I forced the door open. The room was dark, the air heavy with the smell of decay. I shone my flashlight around, half expecting to see something unnatural, but it was just a room, empty and silent. As I turned to leave, I noticed something on the floor, a piece of paper yellowed with age. I picked it up, my heart pounding. It was a page from an old journal, the handwriting barely legible. It spoke of strange occurrences, of doors to other worlds, and of things that came through the fog. I left the diner, the journal page clutched in my hand. I knew I was on the brink of something big, something terrifying. The fog seemed to follow me, a constant reminder of the thin veil between our world and whatever lay beyond. I don't work nights anymore. I've moved away from Charleston, but I know I can't escape it. The fog, the man, the warnings, they're always with me. And every foggy night, I wonder what lies beyond the veil, and if someday I'll find out.